I now hand the conference over to Mr. Anirudh Joshi from ICICI Securities. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Lizan. On behalf of ICICI Securities, we welcome you all to Q3 FY21 results conference call of Tata Coffee Limited. We have with us senior management represented by Mr. Chacko Thomas, Managing Director and CEO, and Mr. K. Venkatramanan, Executive Director Finance and CFO. Now I hand over the call to the management for their initial comments on the quarterly performance, and then we will open the floor for question and answer session. Thanks, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anirudh. Good morning, everyone. This is Chacko Thomas here. I would like to begin the call by giving you a brief overview of the performance of the company during the third quarter. This was a challenging period for all parts of the business because there were several global headwinds, largely on account of disruptions in logistics and somewhat muted demand. But despite all that, we were able to deliver a fairly good financial performance. The standalone total income for quarter three for the financial year was 157.7 crores. The standalone profit after tax was 27.8 crores. The consolidated total income for quarter three was 6.2% higher. That is 532.7 crores compared to 501 crores for the previous year. On the market front, coffee prices for both Arabica and Robusta have generally been irregular in the quarter. In fact, prices for Arabica hit a low of close to 104 cents per pound in October, but then kind of moved up to approximately 125 cents per pound from middle of November, which is what it is presently around. This is mainly on account of the perceived uncertainty in Brazilian crop and some of the weather events that took place in Latin America. However, with the repeated lockdowns in Europe because of the new COVID strain, the demand is anticipated to continue to remain a little bit muted in the coming quarters. With regard to our extractions business in India and Vietnam, I'm pleased to report that despite unprecedented increases in logistics costs, which I spoke about earlier, which impacted dispatches in the IC segment in Vietnam and container availability in India, we managed to deliver a fairly steady sales performance across most regions, but specifically around Russia, Africa, and Southeast Asia. We expect that the issues around logistics to steadily normalize as trade opens up further. And, the uncertainties in demand from the EU because of the repeated lockdowns which have impacted the out-of-home consumption is still an issue that will take some time for it to normalize. Meanwhile, we are certain that our efforts towards customer acquisition in new geographies will continue to find momentum going into quarter four too. We have actually, in fact, built a fairly enviable new product development profile, which is what has helped us garner new sales. With regard to operations at our Vietnam plant, this continues to deliver a steady performance, good sales dispatches during the quarter, and the plant continues to run close to peak capacity. As far as the coffee and tea portfolio is concerned, harvest of both Arabica and Robusta at the moment is ongoing, and happy that the tea business we were able to deliver an improved performance primarily on account of improved price realizations and good quality. I'm also very happy to report that the efforts that we took in the quarter towards cost optimization, improvement in productivity, and in also efficiency enhancement on our estates and factories, that has contributed in helping us improve the bottom line. A word on the consolidated results, aided by a satisfactory standalone performance in quarter three. Our consolidated results have also shown a marked improvement when compared to the previous year. Our US subsidiary, 8 O'Clock Coffee, continues to register good performance on account of robust sales and good profitability. Consolidated total income for the third quarter ending December 31st was higher by 6.2% year-on-year, and net profits increased by close to 26.6% year-on-year. To summarize, I would like to mention that we have managed to deliver a good performance despite the challenges of the pandemic, the continuing pandemic, and unprecedented issues in supply chain, and also some subdued demands across some of these significant geographies that we operate in. However, with the Tata Coffee team rising up to the occasion, prioritizing safety of our workers by keeping COVID under check, driving robust cost optimization in our businesses, scaling up of NPD, and an excellent performance of 8 O'Clock. All these interventions have actually helped us deliver an extremely satisfying quarter. Now I'll hand over to my colleague Venkat, who will take you through the financial performance for the quarter. Over to you, Venkat.
Thanks, Chaco. As Chaco mentioned, we have had a very good quarter, both on standalone and consolidated. The standalone has been, somewhat impacted by the lower shipments on the instant coffee business from India, on account of the global shortage of containers and logistic issues. These we see as a temporary phenomenon, and it should get corrected over the next quarters. The costs have been under tight control, and as regards the consolidated performance, the total income is up by 6% and the net profit up by 20%. And TCBCL continues to be strong in the delivery on the top line by improved sales. And as regards 8 O'Clock Coffee, they have had a very strong, continue to have delivered a strong quarter on account of improved turnover and profitability. With this, I hand over to the analyst for Q&A.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin with the question and answer session. Anyone wishing to ask a question may please press star and one on your touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Samir Raj from Nippon AMC. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. So congratulations on delivering very good performance despite very challenging times. So my question is more a broader question rather than on this particular quarter. So, our parent Tata Consumer has, clearly charted the roadmap for creating long-term shareholder value. So just want to understand what are the thoughts of our parents on how, Tata Coffee can contribute in overall shareholder value creation journey. If one looks at, our track record in creating shareholder history, it's been very patchy, if I can say. I understand that we are in quite different industry and we are subject to volatility of agriculture, etc. But I just want to, if you can share some thoughts on how we want to approach towards creating long-term shareholder value for shareholders of Tata Coffee.
Okay, so I will just say a few sentences and then I'll hand over to Chaco as well. So Tata Coffee, as you rightly said, we are in the sort of a commodity business. Plus, we have the value-added business in form of instant coffee as well as the stake in 8 O'Clock Coffee. As regards the Indian standalone business, two parts of the business. One is the plantations part, where we have coffee, pepper, and tea. So the last few years we have had impacts on coffee, but obviously we are focusing rightly on a replanting strategy, and also expanding the coffee the trading volumes. So obviously coffee over a period of time we expect to deliver a fairly decent return. Yeah, of course, as you all understand, Indian coffee production is about 2% of the global production. We have the, the global terminals at play when we, start looking at the coffee prices. The second part of the plantation business where we are, sort of quite bullish is on the pepper stream. The pepper has been we are been producing around the average of 1,000 tons. But we have got aggressive plans on Tata Coffee has got a lot of timber wealth, and we have got pepper vines we have planted there, and quite a bit of it is under the immature state, which is yet to mature. So on the pepper, we are expecting quite a bit of scale up to happen over a period of time, and also that is another revenue stream where we see strong growth. On the instant coffee side, as we have been reporting, our capacities are all maxed out. In India, we have we have around 8,400 to 8,500 tons, and these capacities are maxed out. We have to look at what the next phase of growth for us in the instant coffee side of the business. How do we grow organically? That's something which we will be focusing on. And also the Tata Coffee Vietnam, which went into operations in 2019-20, it has been operating at 90% capacity plus. We have had a string of very good customer base there, and there are potential for growing that business. So broadly, that's where it is. And I also want to add, for example, Tata Coffee Grant, which is a brand coffee brand which we are manufacturing, and it is being sold to Tata consumer for distribution and marketing. That's again, there is an aggressive kind of plan there, and there's a new ad campaign also which people would have seen in the TV channels. So that is another area of growth which we see for Tata Coffee. I'll hand over to Chaco as well.
Thanks, Venkat. I think you've broadly covered most of it. Just wanted to add a few more notes here. One, of course, is in terms of our ambitions, in terms of looking at what we can do in diversifying just from the crops like coffee, pepper, and tea. So there is an ambitious plan in place to really look at diversifying into other crops. In fact, we have on a pilot scale planted butterfruit, which is avocado, and we find that the response and the yields are very very good. So this is going to be substantially ramped up, and we hope to be a fairly serious player in avocado going forward. Obviously, this has a gestation period, and we are fairly clear about that. Under the diversification plan, there would be several other crops, several other initiatives, whether it is around pisciculture, apiculture. These are all things that we can actually do along with our existing infrastructure, the land mass, as well as our plants that we have. In terms of, while Venkat did touch upon replanting and pepper, just wanted to add that the scale of replanting and the scale of pepper planting is quite large. I mean, it is much larger than normally what you would associate with any plantations in India, and possibly even in some of the other countries. So all this, in our opinion, would be adding on both an ambitious as well as a fairly robust top line and bottom line for the plantations. Venkat also touched upon what our plans are for the instant coffee, and as he rightly mentioned, the plants at the moment are running at full capacity, and we do see an opportunity there to further enhance our play in the instant coffee space. So very bullish in terms of what we see in the coming years. Obviously, the COVID to a certain extent did play its part this year in terms of depressing some of the demand, but these things definitely will pass. So that's broadly what we feel.
So thanks so much for a very elaborate reply. I wish you very best. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bharat Seth from Quest Investment. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for the opportunity and congratulations on excellent set of numbers. Sir, you have, given a very broadly, understanding. Now, taking little bigger, if say paper, you said that we are very aggressive and currently we have 1,000 tons. So, if really, how many years paper plantation take, to mature and the kind of, we have, so where do we see this in the next 3-4 years?
Yeah. So I'll take this question, Bharat. Thanks for asking this question. In fact, pepper typically has a life cycle of about 20-25 years. And unless you have some kind of a unforeseen situation where some disease or something of that sort comes in, typically pepper exists for 20-25 years. But as it ages, the yields come down, mobility actually sets in. Now, in the past 5 years, we have embarked on a replant strategy for pepper, whereby we have actually utilized most of our, unlike other countries, we actually plant pepper on the tree wells that we have here. To be very specific, pepper starts yielding from the 4th year onwards, and the economic and good yields actually start coming from the 5th to 6th year onwards. So that's where we are. We do see a quantum increase in our pepper crop as we go into the next couple of years.
Okay, great. And this coffee replanting also, sir, you said.
Yes.
So how much that will increase our capacity?
Yeah. So typically, it's like this again. Coffee takes Robusta takes anything between 7 to 8 years for it to start economic yielding, and Arabica takes anything between 5 to 6 years. Again, most of the replanting has been carried out in the last 7, 8, up to about 9 years now. A lot of the initially planted Arabicas have actually started yielding, and the yields obviously are pretty good. So again, we do see the yields actually moving up substantially in the coming years. In fact, there is a definite move towards seeing these yields stabilize and going higher as every year passes now.
Okay, great. And sir, instant coffee, if you can run through how much addition that we are looking for, in coming years, expansion in the instant coffee.
No, that we have no, we are not able to comment on that,
Okay.
Bharat, because we will have to plan that out, because there are opportunities for us to look at some expansion, but we will not like to comment on it right now.
Yeah.
And sir, would you like to comment on anything on the 8 o'clock? Now see 8 o'clock after introduction of pod, we have a couple of 2-3 years of a very cyclical and performance. Now we are more stabilized on the 8 o'clock. So taking it to other geography, that brand.
So those, taking it to other geographies, I may not be able to comment much. But 8 o'clock definitely has been delivering, far greater good results in the last couple of years, and this year has been exceptionally good. They have had a lot of uptake on partly on account of COVID, but largely otherwise also on account of the investment in the brand and distribution. And we are clearly seeing a lot of growth potential in 8 o'clock coffee. They are also growing in e-commerce, and the NPD, the new product portfolio, is also quite encouraging.
Also, other geography, when we will be able to understand that plan, for this?
We are not able to comment, but immediately. Maybe at the TCPA level also there may be some indication, because the brand, they are also closely connected with the 8 o'clock itself.
Okay. And sir, this Tata Coffee brand only we will manufacture and sell it to Tata consumer. Is that fair understanding?
That's a correct understanding, because the distribution and the brand, we kind of, the brand strength resides in Tata Consumer, and that's the best way that we can grow the brand together.
Okay. So, and last question on balance sheet, how much gross debt we have on standalone Vietnam and 8 o'clock?
Vietnam will be around 50 million roughly, 52 million, and 8 o'clock will be somewhere around the same levels of around that.
And standalone it is?
Standalone is nothing. There is only the kind of working capital facility where we get some interest subvention and all that. It's hardly anything.
And how much, will be this is a net debt or a gross debt, sir?
This is a gross debt.
And net debt will be approximately?
Net debt will be lower, but Vietnam won't change. 8 o'clock will be lower.
Okay. Okay. Thank you and all the best, sir. And sir, currently we, in all geography, tax rate is 25%?
All geographies.
All geographies.
In the sense, US or?
And Vietnam also we have. So how is the tax rate in Vietnam? Standalone it will be a
tax rate in Vietnam. There is no tax as of now because there is a tax holiday there.
For how many years?
That's about 5 years or so, roughly, approximately.
Balance is left out, or?
Yeah, balance is there. We commenced only last year.
Okay, and 8 o'clock is again 25%, correct?
Yes, correct.
And standalone also 25%.
Standalone will be much, with the deductions and all, the current quarter was around 13%.
And it will remain at this level?
No, it may go up, but maximum will be around 22%.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone wishing to ask a question, may please press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Anirudh Joshi from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, 3 questions. So 8 o'clock basically benefited from COVID, and when people were not going out of their homes, there was an increase in home consumption. So there was a probable pantry increase. That's what you had also communicated at the time of March result or even June results. But now we see 8 o'clock has continued to do well. So despite pantry stocks going upwards, and is there any structural good thing happening in 8 o'clock that is driving this performance? So if you can please elaborate on that.
No, structurally 8 o'clock has been investing behind the brand, and definitely the distribution rate has been encouraging. So that is definitely it will go on. And the K-Cups also, it has been doing well. Is doing well, and they've also been investing behind the new innovations, the early riser and those kinds of the kind of innovations has also been there investing. And e-commerce is also another play where we are seeing substantial potential over the years.
So, do you see 8 o'clock can continue to grow at a not as a guidance, but in terms of high single digit to low double digits over the next 3 to 5 years? Will that be a fair assumption to make?
So quite difficult to say, Anirudh, but we would definitely like to leave a comment that 8 o'clock has been growing, and we would put all levers in place to kind of grow the brand. Okay,
sure. Second question on the instant coffee business. So can you indicate some sort of basically earlier there have been some instances that when we had focused on instant coffee business, but somehow it has not really done beyond the point. But now this time when we do channel checks, etc., the feedback from the channels is pretty good. And in terms of the SKUs also, they are saying that we have launched smaller SKUs, so which can do well in the instant coffee business. So any feedback that you can say that what are the different things that we are doing this time so that instant coffee business can see a good growth. Also, this market is dominated by 2 big players, Nestle and Hindustan Unilever. So what are the plans to get good market share in this industry? Also, is the plan on gaining market share or expanding the market size itself?
So, Anirudh, I think this, if you must be referring to Tata Coffee Grand. I think this question will be better answered in the Tata Consumer Analyst earnings. But what we are clearly seeing is that there is a lot of aggressive growth plans for Tata Coffee Grand, and that will definitely improve the market share over time.
Okay. 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 Last question. In terms of paper plantations, would you like to put a number, because you have indicated that this business is doing exceedingly well. So would you like to put a number in terms of revenues or volumes that we are selling, etc., in terms of, or we can sell in 2 years or something like that?
No, currently it's about 1,000 tons average you can take. Of course, being a commodity, it goes through the on and off cycle. We are hoping it should get doubled in the next 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
So that's in volume terms. That's what we would like to expect, because some of the immature wines would become mature as we go along. But in 3 to 4 years time, we probably would look at maybe a 2,000 ton volume base.
Okay. Okay. Last question. So any capex guidance that you would like to share for FY22?
Instant coffee, see, we normally spend about, for the company as a whole, the range of 30 to 40 crores. But this year has been lower because of all this. We were also a little tight on the capex. But we will look at some, intermediate expansions in the instant coffee capacities and all that. So average capex would be in the range of around 40 odd crores.
Okay. Sure.
Replanting, all that put together. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Gagan Thareja from Kotak Securities. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, good morning. I'm from Kotak Alternative Assets.
Yeah.
So my first question is around the logistics issues that you pointed.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Thareja. Sir, we are not able to hear you clearly. Can you use the handset mode while speaking?
Yeah. Is it better now?
A little better, sir. Please.
A little better, yes.
Yeah. So my first question is around the logistics issues that you pointed out. Could you enumerate the impact of these on sales for the quarter, even in a ballpark number if possible, and on costs as well?
No, ballpark number, see, we would roughly put around 200-250 metric ton has got deferred. Okay, that's where it will be, which we would hope to catch up in the next next few months.
Okay. So this is instant coffee.
Instant coffee, yes.
Okay. And also, I mean, the freight costs have gone up, right? So, I mean, if you could give some idea of, as a percentage of sales, how much the freight cost gone up for you?
Freight cost has gone up, but the current quarter we did not, as a standalone basis, we did not find substantial. It's not a material number. But in Vietnam, we did have some about $100,000 of additional freight. But that we are anyway. So it all depends on the type of contracts we have, whether it's an FOB or a CIF contract. So that's where it will be. So we will be able to pass on some of the freight increases, but it will depend on the type of contract.
Okay. And on Vietnam, if I heard it correctly, you reached 90% capacity utilization?
Yes.
So I mean, as you enter into the next year, you probably at full utilization. Given the situation in the market, I mean, from a demand supply perspective and also from the disruption caused by COVID, do you see room to add another 5,000 or 2,000 whatever tons of capacity on the same existing facility on a brownfield basis? And if you could give any idea about that and the timelines around that?
So at the moment, I think we are in the process of actually studying what could be the response to not just the COVID, but also what we see based on the work that we have done on our NPD and the way we have actually been able to get in new customers, as I spoke earlier in my commentary. So it will take a little bit of time, but we have land which is already readily available for us to add capacities in Vietnam. And of course, within our plants here in India too, there is adequate amount of land that is available for any capacity addition that may come by. So this will take a little bit of while, but we are very clear that there is an opportunity which exists.
Okay. From the perspective of working capital, have these disruptions impacted working capital for you in the last maybe 2 quarters, and how do you see the receivables and inventory and payable situations going ahead?
No, we don't see. We did not have any increase in the inventories or the working capital. In fact, we have had a kind of reduction because of the timely manner in which we plan the working capital cycle.
Okay. And final question from my side around the MEIS benefits. If you could enumerate the MEIS for the first half and maybe some idea of how it was on an annual basis in the bygone year, so that we are able to understand the impact of it going ahead.
Yeah, MEIS, as you know, this is valid of course up to 31/12/2020. From January, there is a new scheme called RODTEP, which you are aware of. So MEIS for the year we would be in the range of around 14-15 crores for us. But this year, of course, the issue is like it is still valid. So we are and whatever the government kind of notifications are there, that they have made it very clear. They have allocated funds, as well as made it clear that the scripts would be issued, even if it's not in this financial year, then in the next financial year. So that's where it is. So this year we are not seeing any impact. For the first 3 quarters, we have sort of, we are kind of eligible and we have accounted it. And for the Q4 of this quarter, the RODTEP scheme, we are awaiting for the rates.
I mean, from whatever I've been able to understand about the RODTEP scheme, yes, the budget of the government itself, there is, barely 20% of that vis-a-vis the MEIS scheme. The whole idea is to be able to, reduce down the expenditure that they incurred on MEIS, which was around 500 billion odd, and bring it down to 100 billion. And in any case, it's also a WTO compliance issue. So from what I understand, the benefits that probably all the exporters have seen under MEIS will probably not get replicated under RODTEP. I mean, your thoughts on that? And the budget seems...
We are not sure, because the point is, we all, most industry associations, especially the commodity boards, like say, UPASI or, we have all made representations. So we are awaiting for the government to announce the rate. So it's too early for us to say, because some of these sectors, like the agri sector, commodity sector, would require support, and especially exports. So we are hoping for that the government will sort of, give us, consider our representation favorably.
In case there is no one-for-one substitution, would you be in a position to compensate at least, to a certain measure by taking price increases? Is the market situation flexible enough for that?
Yes, there is enough. That's our kind of belief is that some amount of price pass-through will happen. Because this, the point is, all the importers, customers also know that there has been some such benefit available, and they duly factor it in. That is one of the representations which also the companies have made that in that sense. So, moment it is that if the benefit is only partially there or not fully there, that hopefully we should be in a position to improve the realizations.
Okay. And from a capacity perspective, as you pointed out, you are already hitting maximum capacity across the board on instant coffee. On plantations, tea and coffee, you're already, acreage-wise already there and yield-wise. So a year down the line, if one were to look at it from a growth perspective, what sort of triggers would you have for growth? Unless you add more capacity by that time effectively. Because you would have only maybe, pepper maturing out and some ventures in avocado and so on. If you could give some idea of, what's your strategy around growth for a 3-4 year time perspective?
No, see, the point is, I don't know that we'll be able to answer it to the extent what you are asking, but definitely we have some levers. So as you rightly said, coffee and pepper, there will be opportunities to grow. We also have the coffee trading in that sense, which we are focusing on. We have the monsooning plant, Arabica plant in Mangalore, which we have expanded some time back, and that's another lever. And instant coffee itself, wherever, obviously, we are working on a lot of new product developments within the existing capacities, which can give us some better play. So these are all levers which we are working on. So hopefully, we will not be able to answer you to the extent in detailed manner, but this is broadly the areas which we'll be focusing on.
Okay. Thanks a lot for your answers. Very good.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dhiral Shah from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good morning, sir. And thanks for the opportunity. Sir, my question is pertaining to the instant coffee division. So what kind of volume growth we have seen in this quarter?
No, this quarter we haven't seen volume, but we had explained. See, we had a bit of an issue, especially on the instant coffee front, India instant coffee business. We had an impact on account of this global shortage of containers and logistics issue. So as I explained, about 250-300 tons we could not ship out. So there has been a decline but this is a temporary one, which is a facing issue as far as we are concerned. Okay. On the Vietnam side, yes, compared to the previous year, we have recorded growth in volumes.
Okay. And so when you talked about there has been a volume and pricing pressure due to the the short-term demand, lower short-term demand. But I believe the instant coffee is majorly at home consumption, right?
True, but again, this has also got several other plays, which is in terms of say certain geographies totally shutting down. And unlike what happened in the first quarter, where people had pantry stocking and there was a rush to buy stuff, that hasn't happened obviously during this period. So that it is kind of normalized, and that is the primary thing.
Okay. And so this pricing pressure is into both segments, spray dried as well as freeze dried?
It is on both sides, but I think a little bit more acutely felt in freeze dried.
Okay, and so by when do you expect the overall instant coffee business to recover, as we have seen, this intermediate volatility?
So in the course of next year, there are 2-3 factors playing up. One is this whole vaccination and all those COVID kind of scenarios. Secondly, Europe has been seeing, some of the customers, Western bases also are in Europe, and so the repeated lockdowns are also a little bit of a kind of dampeners in that sense. So I think over a period of next 6 months or so, we should see demand coming back.
Okay, and sir, lastly, you talked about Arabica pricing. Sir, how is the Robusta pricing?
The Robusta pricing is also under pressure. In fact, Robusta has come down further or more than what Arabica has gone through. This is again largely on account of expectations around the larger Brazilian conloin production, which is expected to be a record in the coming year. So Robusta is under some stress.
Okay, and so any new capacity addition in the system for instant coffee, maybe worldwide?
As of now, we haven't heard of anything which has come up. At least during this particular quarter, nothing that we have actually heard of. So I think there are some projects which are obviously they're put up. Obviously, they haven't come to fruition because of whatever the problems have been as far as COVID is concerned. But nothing this quarter. I don't think anything really major is going to happen during the fourth quarter either.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's it from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Khush Gangar from Care PMS. Please go ahead.
On the Vietnam side, what would be our top line contribution for the quarter?
The top line will be around $7.5 million.
Okay. And are we at profitable contribution on the profit PAT level or?
PAT level, we are positive EBITDA and a bit positive because obviously that has got debt and interest as well. No, that coverage will take time because there has been a major capex. No.
Mm-hmm. So, but we are at full capacity currently right now.
I won't say full capacity. We are around 90 plus %.
Sure. So I would assume that a capacity utilization of 70-75% would have been enough to cover all our interest and depreciation as well. So
Yes.
So, but still we are after EBIT we are you are saying we are negative. So
No, we are not negative. The only thing is what I am saying is that obviously there is some interest and depreciation components which are higher. So obviously, quarter on quarter we will not be able to, because as we explained there is obviously the kind of movement in in the stocks as well as in the prices and depending on the customer offtakes and the kind of products. There's a product mix also there, no, even in freeze-dried.
So do you expect the product mix to improve over the next say 8 to 9 months, and our margins to consequently also improve?
Yeah. That's our firm belief. Yes.
Okay. And the margins would be at our standalone level, can go up up to our standalone level, 20% margin?
Yeah, it should go up, but I'm not able to comment on the exact quantum. But obviously, we are expecting it to sort of go up.
Sure. And how is the marketing intensity in our 8 o'clock side of segments in the US market?
Extremely good. There's no problem at all. It was quite a well-focused marketing drive it is there.
Basically, our marketing spend would continue at current levels. So that is what I'm.
See, in the sense, quarter on quarter we can't see. It all depends on the promos and the kind of which happens along with the customers. But obviously, over a period of time, yes, that it should be somewhat in those levels.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone wishing to ask a question, may please press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Sanjay Ved from D. Ved & Sons. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I would like to ask is in the last quarter you mentioned something about 7.5 crores of export incentive not being added. Is that being accounted for currently?
Yeah, it has been accounted for because there was some clarifications from the Ministry of Commerce and Finance in November that they have released further allocation of funds as well as they said that the scripts would be issued over a period of time.
So is that added to the current net profit?
Yes.
It is added?
Yes.
Okay. And is there any comment or you would like to share on the CCD plantations?
CCD, no, we don't have any comment. No comments. Absolutely no comments.
Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry, a last question on the inventory levels. What are we carrying forward, and with the current rise in the Arabica prices, how do you see the impact of that?
No, we are not carrying any. See, the way it is now, the harvest of this Arabica and all are going on now. So those a season every year it happens. So there's nothing, and we have also got plans to we have got fairly decent order book to export the beans. So there's nothing nothing unusual in the sense it's all.
Yeah, this is a quarter when we harvest the entire Arabicas and typically sell most of it during this quarter itself. So there's nothing really. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bharat Sheth from Quest Investment. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the opportunity again a second time. Sir, how much of capex we spent on the Vietnam, for this instant coffee plant?
It's around 55 to 60 million you can take roughly. That's on the core equipment.
And what is the rate of interest over there on this borrowing?
It's much lower. See, I don't want to give a specific figure. It's all linked to LIBOR and all that. So it's like on that.
If I have to take it now, if same, and what was the capacity?
5,000 tons.
So if again we have to set up, same capacity over there, then the same amount of capex is required, or because some...
No, it will be much lower. No, some of the facilities would be shared. It won't be the same. It will be much less.
Maybe 60% of the...
It's a very difficult question to answer offhand, but yeah, maybe...
because we have the land there, and secondly, some of these, extraction and all, they all depends on how they technically how they want to sort of, put up the plant. So there will not be this kind of number. It will be much less. But how much less, exact something is that we have to probably work on.
Okay, and sir, from zero debt, how many months it takes to really put up the plant and to run it up?
So about 18 to 24 months roughly. We finished in 18 months roughly. That's the kind of record kind of plant was put up in record time.
And India's capex will be again same, or it will be different?
India capex is like this. No, India capex will be more of maintenance capex and for any kind of adding on some equipments and for the normal growth which happens there. Apart from that, we will have some replanting and all that.
No. So my question, if we have to expand instant coffee capacity over here in India, hello?
That will depend, Bharat, on what, because we have in India, we have got spray and freeze. So freeze, we are anyway, Vietnam, we have invested. So spray here capacity is the investment will be much lower. We want to expand.
Okay, by debottlenecking or some brownfield expansion we can do, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rahul Jagwani from Insync Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Can you help me with the net debt and gross debt figure end of December?
So India bit has been, the standalone will be a positive number. So India is the net debt is negative. There's nothing there. And as we explained, the gross debt in Vietnam is around 48 to 50 million, and somewhere equivalent levels in UOC as well.
So equivalent in 8 o'clock also?
Yeah.
So it's the same amount in 8 o'clock?
Yeah, somewhere around that level, I am just saying.
Okay. And so, so do you think this debt figure, do you see it coming down, or because we might add more capacity?
So No, it keeps on coming down. No, we already started repayments and all for Vietnam. It keeps coming down. Yes.
Okay.
And there's no fresh debt being taken.
Okay, got it. And there were some articles on unseasonal rainfall in December and Coorg. So any impact on the crop? Or?
No, so typically what I think you need to understand here would be that the unseasonal rainfall typically impacts the Robusta crop because Robusta starts flowering. And fortunately for us, the region where our Robusta properties are located, which is south of Coorg, there wasn't much of a rain. So we have, in our opinion, been able to manage that situation pretty well. One, of course, providence, and second, we have also done a fair amount of interventions that we needed to do. See, what is important is you need to have adequate amount of people to be able to pick the crop which is already existing on the bush. Otherwise, the bush goes into a kind of a stress, and the flowering kind of gets impacted. So on all these fronts, both on the rainfall as well as availability of labor, we were fairly well prepared. So no issues for us. But I think yes, there have been regions which have been fairly badly impacted.
Okay, Benji. Thanks.
Thank you. A reminder to the participants, anyone wishing to ask a question, may please press star and 1. Participants, if you wish to ask a question, you may please press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Anirudh Joshi from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, sir. Just one question from my side. Basically, on 8 o'clock, can you indicate is the market also growing as fast as 8 o'clock, or is 8 o'clock gaining some market share over there?
No, see, on the bag segment, the market share has been less stable.
Sorry?
Market share for the bags business, they're operating bags as well as caters. Bag segment more or less have been stable. Okay. They have been growing.
And which is slightly ahead of what the market is.
Okay, but any reason why they are able to grow, gain the market share? Means any particular reason? And what is the total market share of 8 o'clock now?
Now it will be in the range of 6 to 7%.
Okay. Are we working on any target like gaining 1% market share every year, or?
I don't know any target is there, Anirudh, but obviously they have been putting in all efforts to grow the business.
Okay. Sure, sir. That was helpful. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question. I now hand the conference over to the management for the closing comments.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure interacting with everyone, and we hope to be in touch with all of you in the fourth quarter call. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of ICICI Securities, that concludes this conference call. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines. Thank you.